I hope you don't mind my voice today because I am exceedingly ill. And so yeah, be safe out there. It's cold season, so stay warm, if you please. Anyway, today we will be making the overcoat for the Forest Wanderer Princess Warrior costume series. And I will admit, this has been probably my favorite part of the series so far. It turned out so good, and I can't wait to share the process with you, so let's just get straight to it. The design I chose was based off of this main reference. I really liked the combination of the royal blue with the silver embroidery, so that's my main inspiration for the costume. My base material is a medium weight 100% cotton muslin canvas material, and it's very nice and soft, and since it's 100% cotton, I can dye it. And I just found this in like the cotton section at Walmart, and I have never been able to find it since, but I'm sure there are other materials like it, but it came in this really nice ivory color. So for the dyeing process, I had to pre-wash the fabric. And then I conjured a pot of 3 gallons of water on the stove, and I think I just keep my stove on like maybe the highest setting, like it doesn't really get that hot. And then I dumped in just a bunch of salt. I was using Rit dye, and I used a little bit of royal blue, and I don't think I used that much, like you probably can do without it, but indigo gives you the best shade of royal blue, so I added a bunch of that to my dye bath as well. Test the dye with a napkin, and then once it's ready you can put in the fabric, and I let mine sit in there for about 20 to 30 minutes. I'm pretty sure it absorbs all the color it's going to absorb after about like 10 minutes, but just to be sure, I wanted mine to be very saturated, so I kept it in there for quite some time until it was like a couple shades darker than what I wanted. And then re-rinse and wash on the coldest setting in your washing machine. And here's the results of the fabric. Alright, so let's talk patterns, because I think I need to be better at showing you guys how I do my patterns. I feel like that would make things a lot easier for you when I'm constructing my dresses. Anyway, so let's talk about how I drafted this pattern. So I have not yet calculated the sleeves, because sleeves, I just kind of have like one sleeve pattern that I modify for all my dresses, and I just kind of do the math and figure it out. So we'll do that when we come to it, but like, the skirt is actually like a lot bigger than that. Let's add some more flair to that. So this is kind of roughly the pattern that I'm going for. Obviously it's drawn out pretty roughly anyway, but so there are, ignoring these silly gussets, like, yeah. So there's 4 pieces here, on the front and the backs, and there's princess seams on both sides. So how I achieved this pattern is I first calculated the skirt measurements, and I did this just with math. Like, you don't have to, if you want to do a mock-up, you can, but skirts use a lot of fabric, and I would rather do the math than pay for more fabric. So I just, this is how I mathed my skirt. So this measurement up here is a quarter. Nope, not a quarter. This is an 1/8 of your waist measurement. So take your waist measurement and divide that by 8, and you should get whatever this was. And then the bottom, you want this to be an 1/8 of how much of the circumference of the bottom is. So what I like to do is I have purchased from Joann's this orange measuring tape, and this is like their longest size. I believe it says 8 yards on this side. Oh. Anyway, I take this measuring tape and I lay it out on the floor in kind of like this squiggly, you know, like whatever shape the skirt will be from the bottom when it kind of folds. I don't know. But I basically use this to kind of get an idea of how big I want the circumference of the bottom of my skirt to be. And then I take that number, divide it by 8. That is the measurement of this bottom. And then the next important measurement is the side measurement. And this is how long your skirt is going to be. So I measured from my waist down to like an inch past the skirt that I'm wearing underneath this overcoat. And then I added 3 more inches for hem allowance because I might do a blind hem, so I just decided to play it safe and add a couple more. So I believe this measurement ended up being about 35 inches, and this one ended up being about 26 inches. And when you're patterning this on your pattern paper, I unintentionally chose Christmas colors. So I have my like wrapping paper or my pattern paper here, and then you're just going to take your top waist measurement, whatever that is, and then you're going to take that 35 inch or the length measurement and lay that along the edge of your pattern paper, and then measure out the bottom 1/8 measurement here. That was 26 for me. And then you want to take like a yardstick, or you can take your really long tape measure, and you're going to lay it across from here to here, and that will give you a nice little slant. And then you're going to draw that line, and then measure from here down to 35 inches, because that is your length measurement. And then you're just going to kind of, and then you can put your measuring tape here, mark 35 inches, and just do it a couple times until you have enough dots that you can just connect them, and you'll end up with that little curve, and that's how you calculate your skirt piece. For the bodice, what I did is I had a block pattern, and if you don't know what a block pattern is, it's basically just a pattern for a bodice that covers pretty much all the skin on your torso, so that you kind of have a blank canvas to draw lines on. Since this overcoat does cover all the skin on my torso, I didn't have to change it that much. I literally just added the princess seams to the front and the back, and then, you know, like just played around with the fit. I also cut it off right at the waist, and so when I cut out my fabric, I would just take each of these bodice pieces and then just add this skirt piece to each one of them, so I didn't have to waste paper either. So I would just like pin the skirt to each piece as I cut it out. I also decided to cut out pockets because, as every girl knows, every dress needs a pocket. I serged my pockets, leaving a 1/2 inch opening at the top. And then I French seamed all my panels together, starting with the front and side fronts and the back and side backs. And then I joined the front and back at the side seam, pinning the pockets in as well. Also, don't forget to sew the shoulder seam. Now I felt like it was time for another embroidery montage, so here you go. guys, it's looking so good. Alright, so my original plan was to not add a lining to this, which is why I French seamed the inside, but honestly, after some consideration, I feel like this deserves a lining because it is now like my favorite overcoat. It's also just fancy, so it deserves a lining, and that'll also help cover up the underside of this embroidery. So I'm gonna go to Hobby Lobby and pick up some satin to line it with, and then I also need to get a fashion fabric for the cape because I have not done that yet. Now for the sleeves, I used this Simplicity sleeve pattern, and it's a 3/4 length sleeve pattern, so I just added a few more inches until it reached my wrists. I also made a collar mock-up, and the collar was pretty easy. It was just like a 2-inch strip of fabric that I took in at the side seam to kind of have it hug my neck a little bit more, and then I pretty much just serged the entire thing together. And make sure that you cut out 2 so that one of them can be the lining. And I decided to use 2 layers of the cotton fabric because it is stiffer and therefore more sturdy. But if you want it to be more sturdy, you can add like a heavier weight cotton canvas. I've done that before with some of my collars. Fabric has been obtained. And I went to Hobby Lobby because usually their fabric is on sale, and so I can get like a good deal on fabric, but it wasn't. I paid full price for this. $81, baby! My bank account is like a little bit on the slim side now, but it's fine. Look at this beautiful silver satin. And then I also purchased some buttons to go on the sleeve cuffs. So, I will use this, and this is for the cape, which I will make in the next video, so until then, adieu to this fabric. Next, I seamed together the same panels from my satin lining with a 1/2-inch seam. Then I joined the lining to the fashion fabric along the front closure seam, good sides facing. And now is the time where you want to do that understitching, so stitch the seam allowance down onto the silver lining. And this will keep the lining from poking out. For the sleeves, I wanted to add some silver cuffs, so I just cut out the bottom 5 inches of my sleeve pattern out of my lining, and then I sewed that to the outside of the sleeve and then turned and pressed it. Then I made a lining for my sleeve, and then I sewed up all the sleeve ends. And before doing that, I actually tried it on and then just pinned it where it was baggy so I could have a more tailored fit to my sleeve. Then I pinned the hem of my sleeve, good sides to good sides, and then I stitched along the bottom of those sleeves, containing the sleeve cuff inside of that seam. So basically, when you flip over that, so I had my like silver panel of sleeve, and then I flipped it over, and then I just stitched that inside the seam with my lining so that it would just kind of contain the end of the sleeve. Alright, so brief explanation time. So as you saw in the clip, in theory these sleeves should be sewn up all the way, but I tailored these sleeves, and I think I tailored them pretty tight, so I was able to get the sleeves on and off fine, except like it was kind of a tight squeeze. So I decided, as long as I'm putting buttons on them, I would just rip open the end of the sleeve and then just sew real buttons on there. So yeah, that's optional. My original plan was to just make the sleeves fitted so that they could slide on and off my wrists really well. But just for my convenience, I turned it into real buttons, so thought I would mention that. Stay stitch the arm side and the collar of the overcoat. Then I gathered the top of the sleeve to fit the arm side, and then I attached the sleeves and the collar. Lay out the skirts and then pin the lining to the hem of the overcoat skirt. Stay stitch, and then serge off all the extra fabric. And then if you don't have a serger, you can just chop it off. Then I blind hemmed a rolled hem. And I know I said that I wanted a 3-inch blind hem, which was kind of standard, but I kind of liked the length of the skirt the way it was, so I decided to just leave it a little bit longer and then do like a little 1/2 inch or 1-inch rolled hem. I also turned down my collar lining and then I stitched that as well. Then I also stitched the remaining lining on the arm side of the sleeve. Next I sewed on my golden clasps and I spaced them 2.5 inches apart. And then I added 2 extra hook and eyes at the bottom of those clasps to kind of keep this skirt closed. And now we're done. Well, that's the overcoat for y'all. I hope you really loved it because I thought it turned out really pretty. I love the pockets and I love how swooshy it is. I mean, I wasn't planning on making it that large of a skirt, but it just kind of like happened because that's how I do things around here. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. In the next video, I will show you how I'm making the fur-lined cape, and that will wrap up this project, and then I will give you more news about my sewing life from there. So stay safe, don't get sick, and have a wonderful day. Love you, bye. A very subtle shade of royal blue. Yes. Alright, so let me explain my patterning process to you. Guess I already used that for notes. Okay, let me get a different paper. I also decided to cut, whoa, that's not how sentences work. Like all this, actually you need 2 pockets because if you just have 1 pocket, that's just kind of weird. I mean, you have 2 hands, right? Watch the Polar Express. Yes. It feels like a requirement.
Sorry. Well, no, I'm not sorry, but
Makes me just want to go to like a Christmas ball or something. They're my weak constitution. Tell my mother I love her. Does anyone else like to be so dramatic when they're sick? I actually don't get sick that often. I went 8 years without getting sick, but now whenever I am sick, I like to dramatize it way too much. Anyway, because I have not done yet, it worked out pretty fine, and I only broke like 1 or 2 needles. Oh. Don't worry guys, I think it was just the thread broke. Whew. Glad that wasn't the needle, because I already broke a needle today, and I'm down to my last 3 or 4 needles. When I was working, I don't know, maybe it was the moss dress, but I was working on some sort of dress, and I kept breaking so many needles. Oh, looks like I broke the pin. Anyway, I kept breaking so many needles. Oh, I remember what it was. I was sewing 700 feathers to a dress, and I kept breaking my needles, and I just gave my mom the needle packet, and I was like, go to the store, or she was like, I'm running to the store, do you want me to get you anything? And I was like, take this and bring me back like 6 more of them. And well, needless to say, I am running out, so I break a lot of needles. That's my little secret. Oh, whoops, that's the wrong side. Mom! Dad! Bingo! Louie!
This show is for men.